Hi everybody, Pam here. I have been having a great time this week painting some winter scenes from some pictures that a dear friend sent to me that she took as she was taking a walk in the snow the other day. So these have been just so much fun, and I'm really enjoying using a limited palette and painting with neutrals instead of color straight from the tube. So I really like these colors so much that I thought I would jump on and show you how to mix them to make maybe some winter scenes of your own in watercolor. So let's get started. This is one of the pictures that I've been working on, and you can see that in the background here I have some very neutral blue. It's almost a black, very dark gray. And then as we get further into the foreground, it's a lighter wash of a bluer neutral. But all of the colors in this painting are made from neutral colors. And I'll show you how to create neutral colors using our color wheel. Just a real quick word about using primaries to create grays and blacks. So our primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. And if you take a look at those, red, yellow, and blue, you can see that it's a triad. They're equally distant from each other around the color wheel. And if you mix all three of these colors together, you're going to get a very dark, deep, neutral, almost to a black. And that's true with any triad that you choose. If we choose a let's say we come around and choose a red violet and a blue green and a yellow orange, you're going to get the same thing. You're going to get a very gray pushing toward black if you mix those together. Now, depending on what colors you choose to use in your triad, that will determine like what bent the color has. It might lean a little toward purple, or it might lean a little toward blue or a little toward green, depending on the colors that you choose. But the basic rule of thumb is, if you want a gray, choose choose a triad, or choose opposites on the color wheel that are called complementaries. So if you choose red, your complementary is green. If you mix those together, you're going to get a gray. If you choose red orange and a blue green, mix those together and you're going to get a gray. The hue will be a little bit different, but it's still going to be a neutral. It's still going to be a gray. So that is the theory that we are basing this this video on. To get neutrals, we're going to be using complementaries and our primary triad of red, yellow, and green, or red, yellow, and blue. And so this is one of the paintings I've been working on. I made a chart that's going to help us swatch out colors to show how to develop some of these neutrals. And I'm only using 4 colors: French ultramarine, carbazole violet, quin burnt orange, and alizeran crimson. So to start, I would like to just swatch out the color right from the tube. So we'll start with our French ultramarine. And that is just a very beautiful blue that I like to use it for skies a lot because it's such a clear blue. Our next one is carbazole violet, which is very close to a purple. Next is our quin burnt orange, which on this palette is taking the place of the yellow in our primary palette. So we have 2 blues. We have a cool and a warm, and I'm counting my carbazole violet as the warm blue. Here I have quinburnt orange that I'm swapping out for my yellow, and I am using alizeran crimson as a cooler red. Okay, so we have basically, for all intents and purposes, we have a cool and a warm blue, we have a cool and a warm red, and we're getting our yellow that we need for the primary palette out of the orange, because orange is made from red and yellow. So that is my thinking on choosing this palette to start to develop some of these neutrals. So remember, if I mix my red, yellow, and blue together, I should get a very deep dark gray pushing toward black. So let's see if we can develop some of these neutrals. First, I'm going to start with my basic color of French ultramarine. So I'm using a little porcelain palette to do the mixing in. I'm going to pick up some French ultramarine and get a good bit of that down in the middle. That's going to be our base color. To that, I'm going to add carbazole violet. Just put a little bit of that around the edge, and we'll also pull in some of our quinburnt orange and alizeran crimson. We only need a little bit of that. That will help tone our color. So French ultramarine, let's pull in some of the carb violet first into the French ultramarine. And we can see that that is very blue. And let's swatch that down. And next we're going to pull in to that mix some quinburnt orange. And you can already see, ooh, right away how gray that got. Oh, I love that color. Okay, so we're working into our neutrals now. And I'm going to pull into that mixture some of this alizeran crimson, just to see how that will change the tone of our color. Okay, that pulled it toward the reddish brown side. All right, now let's go ahead and mix all of this together, because we said that if we mix all our primaries together, we should get something close to black. I've got quite a bit of water in here now, so I am going to add a little more. Oh, that might be a little bit too much red. Let's pull some of our quinburnt orange in and try to neutralize that a little bit. And we need some more blue. Okay, there we go. And we can keep pushing this, adding blue, neutralizing it with the orange, and we should be getting a very gray. Now I've got quite a bit of water in this mix right now. Okay, very nice neutral color. Okay, so that's what we're aiming for, these neutrals. All right, so let me clean out my palette. And the next one, we'll start with the carb violet as our base. So put a good bit of that in the middle. And let's put some French ultramarine around the sides. Quinburnt orange. just a smidge of the alizeran crimson. A little of that goes a long way. Okay, so first we've got carbazole violet here. Our next color is quin burnt orange. Now, I notice that our carbazole violet is very purple, and on the color wheel we see that the complement to our purples is yellow. Okay, see the violet? We've got carbazole violet on our palette, and the opposite is yellow. Now this quin burnt orange has a lot of yellow in it. So what should happen is this should neutralize pretty quickly, and we can see right away that this very quickly turned to a brown, a very rich dark brown. And that's what will happen with complementary colors. You get a rich brown or a gray. Okay, so now we haven't put any blue in yet, so let's pull some of our blue and put it into the mix. Now we're working on that triad of primary colors, blue, red, and yellow. So now this is going to get very black. Nice. If you want nice blacks, mix your own blacks. Black out of the tube is very flat, dull, and it's just much better to mix your own. Okay, so mixing most of what's in my palette together, I see that it's very blue. So I'm going to add some quin burnt orange to it, and then mix everything in my palette together. I can see that that's still very purple. So what would you mix in here if we're aiming for black or a very dark gray? Would you add alizeran, orange, violet, or French ultramarine? We're aiming for black or a dark gray. Well, the answer is you would go for the French ultramarine, because we want to push it away from the reds. And since the carb violet has red in it, that won't work. Of course, the quin burnt orange has red in it, so that won't work. So if we're aiming for gray or black, we want to add our blue. Okay. And there we have it. Still a little on the red side. Need a little more blue. Still. Okay, and the more blue we add to it, the closer we're getting. And the complement to blue is orange. So we should add some quin burnt orange to that to neutralize the blue now. Okay, and we're getting closer. So you see, you can keep pushing this color around until you get the hue that you want. But there are some very nice neutrals that came out in that mix. All right, the next one, excuse me, let me clean up my palette. because we don't want to mix mud. If you don't clean out your palette, things start to get very muddy looking. It won't look as fresh. So our next base color is going to be the Quin Burnt Orange. So we'll put that color in the middle. We just need a little smidge of the alizeran. And we need some French ultramarine. Good bit of that. And just a smidge of the carb violet. All right, so we'll mix the alizeran and the Quin Burnt Orange together. And as expected, pushed it toward the red side. That's kind of easy when you're mixing harmonious colors together. You kind of know what you're going to get, but it's when I mix this blue into that's where we get surprised. So the next one is the blue, the French ultramarine. So we're going to pull that into the mix, and look what happens right away. It turned, we were getting a brown. Very neutral. Nice color. Okay, and then we're going to pull some carb violet into that mix. It's getting blacker and richer. Very neutral. All right, so now let's mix all of that together. And since I've been estimating the percentages of the color that I'm putting in here, I'm going to look at it, and I'm aiming for black. And what do we see here? We see a lot of red tones still. So when we see that, we want to go for something that is across the color wheel from a purple or a red, which is, if you go across from red, it's green. So what makes green? Blue and yellow. So it looks like we need some of our blue. And once we get the blue in there, if we want to neutralize that, where are we going to get our yellow? From the Quin Burnt Orange. So let's grab a little brush full of that. Okay, now it's looking like there's quite a bit of orange in that still. So we need to pick up a little more blue. And you can see how that got us some nice rich gray pushing toward black. There's quite a bit of water in this palette right now, so it's not quite as dark as it would be. But, you know, if we take some of the water out of the palette by adding some drier color, that will take care of that. I'm adding some of the carb violet. And the complement, whoo, wow. So that darkened things up in a hurry. And the complement to purple is orange. So put some more of that Quin burnt orange in there. And wow, look at that nice, rich, dark neutral that we just created. Very nice for shadows underneath trees. And we're starting to, if you start to look around now, you can see some of the colors that would look great on a painting like this. You see the purple in this shadow, and then here this is very gray, but it's on the bluer side. So here it is. Here's a nice blue gray, and here's a nice purple gray. If you need something a little more neutral, you go up, you add a little more of the Quin burnt orange to it. So this is just a whole lot of fun to play around with these neutrals and just make a chart and pull a couple of colors out of your paint palette and experiment. That is the best way to learn how to mix color, and especially these cool neutrals for some nice winter scenes. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that you've learned a little bit about mixing color. Thanks for jumping on and joining me for a few minutes. And enjoy the snow. Enjoy the color that you can find in snow. And until next time, happy painting.